Phoebe, the faithful servant who carried Paul's letter. In the bustling port city of Cenchreae, a woman named Phoebe prepared for a journey that would change history. She was not a preacher or an apostle, yet she carried something powerful, something that would shape the Christian faith for centuries. She held in her hands Paul's letter to the Romans. Who was Phoebe? Phoebe is mentioned in Romans 16 verses 1-2, where Paul writes, "I commend to you our sister Phoebe, a servant of the church in Cenchreae. I ask you to receive her in the Lord in a way worthy of his people and to give her any help she may need from you, for she has been the benefactor of many, including me." Though her appearance in Scripture is brief, these words reveal much about who she was. She was a servant, diakonos, of the church in Cenchreae. The word diakonos means minister or deacon, suggesting she held an official role in the church. Some believe she was a leader among early Christian women, responsible for assisting the poor, teaching converts, and helping with baptisms, especially of women. She was trusted by Paul. Paul did not casually mention people in his letters. By personally commending Phoebe, he showed that she was a woman of high character, faithfulness, and reliability. She was a benefactor. Paul describes her as a prostatus, a Greek word meaning patron or protector. This suggests she was a woman of wealth and influence who supported the church financially and perhaps even provided shelter for traveling missionaries like Paul. The mission, carrying Paul's letter to Rome. Historians and biblical scholars widely agree that Phoebe was the one who delivered Paul's letter to the Roman Church. At the time, letters were not simply mailed. They were carried by trusted messengers who ensured their safe arrival. Phoebe was that messenger. This was no ordinary letter. The book of Romans is one of the most profound theological writings ever composed. In it, Paul laid out the doctrine of salvation by faith, explaining sin, grace, and the righteousness of God. It would later influence great Christian thinkers like Augustine, Martin Luther, and John Wesley. And Phoebe carried it. A dangerous journey. For Phoebe to travel from Cenchreae, a port near Corinth, to Rome, she likely boarded a merchant ship and crossed the Mediterranean Sea. A journey filled with risks. Storms, pirates, and shipwrecks were real threats in the ancient world. Beyond physical danger, she was a woman traveling alone in the Roman Empire, a society where women had few rights and were often overlooked. Yet, Paul entrusted her with one of his most important letters. Was Phoebe the first to read Romans aloud? In the ancient world, the person delivering a letter was often expected to read it aloud to the recipients and explain its meaning. Since Phoebe carried Paul's letter, she may have been the first voice to ever proclaim the words of Romans to the church in Rome. Imagine Phoebe standing before a group of Roman believers, unrolling the scroll and reading, "I am not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God that brings salvation to everyone who believes." Romans 1 verse 16. If this was indeed the case, then the first preacher of the book of Romans was a woman. Phoebe's lasting legacy. Though the Bible does not tell us what happened to Phoebe after this journey, her impact is undeniable. She was a trusted leader in the early church, a faithful servant who supported Paul and other believers, a bold traveler who carried one of the most important letters in history. For centuries, her name has been remembered as a woman who used her position, resources, and faith to advance the gospel. Her story is a reminder that in God's kingdom, faithfulness matters more than fame.